again. Let's
Oh,
talk
I've never
about
heard of Morgan.
the NCAA college football week 11. Week 11. I believe there's only 17 weeks left to go in the season. So week 11 we're looking at. We're going to talk about the ACC games, and then we're going to do Houston's top 5 games of the week. We actually have an extra one in there because right now we don't know if Alabama is going to play at LSU. We're going to try to go through this fast here. So let me get my ACC games up. If you're over in the chat, we really appreciate you coming in as well. And make sure you get in on the chat board with your picks against the spread. Again, we're going to go fast here. All right, you guys ready?
Giddy up.
Ready.
All right, the first one is number 9 Miami Hurricanes 6-1 versus, and they're going to Blacksburg, Virginia Tech Hokies. They're 4-3 overall. Right now, the FPI for ESPN is 62.2% to Virginia Tech. 62.2%. So I'm guessing they're going to put in the fact that this is a home game for them. It might be difficult there in Lane Stadium, but it's a little bit different considering COVID. I'm not even sure how many fans they can have still right now. I know originally they only could have 1,000, so it's hard to say. But both of these teams kind of match up pretty evenly. They both can score a ton. The biggest difference is that Virginia Tech can run the ball crazy good, 277 yards per game right now under Khalil Herbert, which is a transfer there from Kansas. So we're starting with you, Houston. What you got? It's let me see. The spread is -2.5 to Virginia Tech. So 2.5, just barely a favorite.
I'm actually going to take the Hokies in this one. They just lost to Liberty. They're in shock. They should not have lost that game in their minds. I look for them to rebound this week, give the ball to Khalil Herbert. Miami seems to be reeling a little bit on defense after last week, giving up 41 in Raleigh, having to go to Blacksburg now. Give me the Hokies to cover.
Alan, what you got?
Look, I think Virginia Tech, they're struggling on defense pretty bad right now. I like Miami and what they can do. Virginia Tech just got beat by Liberty. I think this loss beats them twice. I'm going to take Miami.
And, I've got to go. To me, I think Miami just traveled to NC State and won by 3. So I'm going to say they're going to continue their road success and be able to win this game as well. +2.5. I like that. Give me +2.5 going into Blacksburg there. So we've got Houston. Let me write this down. I didn't write this down first. Houston going with Virginia Tech minus the points. Allen and myself going with Miami. I think Miami too is going to take this very seriously, Houston, because they saw this Clemson loss, and so they're going to try to do what they can to win these games and hope that Clemson stubs their toe again or continues to have bad injuries and gets messed up later on in the season, because Clemson's got to play these games too. Next up, Wake Forest at North Carolina. Wake Forest 4-2, getting better. Right now, got a winning record and getting better every single week. They just come off a big win against Syracuse, and they beat Virginia Tech, and they beat Virginia, and they beat Campbell. So they got 4-game winning streak right now. And then you've got North Carolina, who, and this is a noon game at Chapel Hill in Kenan Stadium. North Carolina seems to be getting worse to me. I'm a little bit worried about their defense. They're getting worse every single week. They did have a good game against Duke, but I really don't want to give a lot of credit to that, because I just don't think Duke is that good either. But North Carolina can score 40 points per game. Wake Forest can score 37 points a game. I feel like that Wake Forest and North Carolina are going to be very even. It's -13.5 to North Carolina. FPI right now, 63%. What you got, Houston?
I'm going to this might be against my better judgment. I'm going to take Wake Forest, and not to win outright, but I think they'll cover. Wake Forest is a decent team. They seem to give North Carolina problems any year. Doesn't matter if they're good, bad, or indifferent. I feel like Wake Forest is going to be able to give them problems. They have a decent enough defense to stop North Carolina, at least for a couple drives. But I think North Carolina's talent overall will bring them a couple extra points at the end. I think North Carolina wins, but does not cover.
Yeah, look, North Carolina has been pretty good for me all year. They've only lost on me once or twice. Wake Forest has screwed me all year. It doesn't really matter whether I pick them or whether I don't. So I'm going to go with UNC here to cover the points. And again, Wake Forest can score, so it really doesn't seem like the smart pick. but the Tar Heels have done me pretty well this year, so I'm going to hang with them.
It's not the smart pick, Alan. I'm going with Wake Forest here. You're going with the Tar Heels. So that gives two Lone Wolves here. We got Lone Wolf, Houston, Virginia Tech, and Lone Wolf, Allen, North Carolina. Is that correct? I'm still tracking
Yep.
here. All right.
Hey, Morgan, let me track them. I'll write them down. You just go with it.
All right. So then we got number 2, Notre Dame, Notre Dame minus 13.5 at Boston College. Notre Dame is 7-0, just coming off a huge win against Clemson. Boston College, though, 5-3, one of the better teams in the ACC. To be honest, they only lost to Clemson by I believe 6 points, 34-28. There, Boston College has a great defense and they got a good passing game as well. FPI right now, Notre Dame. It says 14%. 85%. Notre Dame right now, 85.8% chance to win. Again, the spread is minus 13.5. What you got, Houston?
And you'll have to excuse the dog flapping ears over there. I'm picking Notre Dame to win, but I feel like this is one of those games. Big, huge, momentum-swinging, program-changing game against Clemson. You exhausted all your team. You rallied your team to make it through a double overtime game. It's going to be a sleepy, empty. It almost feels overcast right now. Overcast day in Chestnut Hill. They're going to get off to a slow start. I think this game is going to look similar to the Clemson-Boston College game, where Notre Dame's going to be in a bigger tussle than they anticipated. So I picked them to win, but not to cover.
I actually agree 100% with Houston here, except for he does leave out the fact that Phil Jurkovec is the back for Boston College, and he was passed over for the job at Notre Dame. I think he's going to have a score to settle here. I'm picking BC to cover.
I'm doing the same as well. I like BC. I think they can keep it close. If they kept it close to Clemson, I think they can keep it close to Notre Dame. Look, I don't think that Notre Dame would have won that game if Clemson had all their players on the field. So I don't think that Notre Dame had such an amazing win as what everybody wants to give them. And I think that Boston College is one of those teams, if any team, especially at their home base, can keep you close. And I also like the fact that Jeff Hafley is his strength is stopping the pass. Okay. His strength is that he's going to lean on that. And one of the things that Notre Dame can do to gash you big time is the passing game. I feel like they're going to lock that down. So it's just going to be a run game. So there's going to be a lot of clock taken off. So plus 13.5 at home. Give me the home dog. I don't think there's going to be enough time, if that makes any sense. I think there's going to be a lot of time run off the clock. Next up, Louisville at Virginia. Virginia -3. We actually picked this one last week. I don't even remember what my pick was. I think it was Virginia. So I think I'm going to go with Virginia again, but I'm going to wait. I'm holding it in. So Houston, you tell me.
I'm going to say Virginia as well. Virginia -3.
Yeah, we all picked Virginia from what I remember last week. Louisville and Wake Forest have been my kryptonite against picks against the spread all year. It doesn't really matter whether I go with them or against them. I had too much faith in them earlier in the year and not enough later in the year, but I'm going UVA -3.
Next up, Pittsburgh -6.5 at Georgia Tech. This one's an interesting game. Pittsburgh right now projected to win 65%. And we know that if Kenny Pickett's back, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, give me Kenny Pickett to cover the 6.5.
I'd agree. If Kenny Pickett's playing, I think their offense is better than anything Georgia Tech puts out on defense. So give me Pittsburgh to cover.
Same.
And then the last ACC game, Florida State at NC State. -7 for the Wolfpack. Ooh, this is a 7:30 game. Gonna have to wait all night. Florida State 2-5, 1-5 in the conference. NC State 4-3, 4-3 in the conference. ESPN FPI has NC State 73.9% chance to win this game. They both are very, very even though. 385 total yards offense a game for Florida State, 395 for North Carolina. 471 given up on defense per game for Florida State, 472 for North Carolina on defense given up. Very, very even when you look at those stats. Both teams coming off 2 losses. Florida State lost at home to Pittsburgh, 41-17. They also lost traveling to Louisville, 48-16. But North Carolina barely lost to Miami and then did kind of get blown out on the road to UNC. So what you got, Houston?
I feel I'm going to go with the team that has identity. And that's NC State. They have a talented group of wide receivers. They seem to actually have picked up with Bailey Hockman coming in at quarterback and being able to deal out the ball. A little bit more confidence in the quarterback position. Florida State's offensive and defensive lines are absolute garbage still. Nothing's changed. So I'm going to go with a team with the identity. Give me NC State to win and cover.
Yeah, so Casey Cregan gets in with a great point here on Facebook. Says Bailey Hockman looked good, FSU transfer. So we got a kind of Phil Jerkovic situation going on here with BC against Notre Dame. I'm going to pick NC State to cover here as well.
Ooh, another lock for all of us as well. So we've got
4 in a row.
All 4 in a row. We pick BC, Virginia, Pittsburgh, NC State, and the theme that we had 2 out of the 3 is revenge on the school you left. So keep that in mind. That's our ACC games of the week. Yeah, you're right. We didn't pick a Clemson game because Clemson does not play this week. They have an off week, and then they will head to play Florida State in a game that would normally be pretty tough one. We don't know what we're going to get this year, though. Okay, Houston. Houston picked these games. Number 5, Texas A&M, -8 at Tennessee. Texas A&M is 78.2% chance to win here, according to ESPN's Football Power Index. Texas A&M 5-1, Tennessee 2-4. I know a lot of people thought that they were going to be doing better than that, but not starting out so well. Texas A&M last game, huge beat up of South Carolina. Tennessee lost at Arkansas. They've actually lost 4 games in a row. Texas A&M won 4 games in a row.
This game's fishy to me. It's got a fishy line, got a fishy smell to me. Always at the end of the season, Tennessee and Texas A&M are bound to have one big win and one big loss. Tennessee, you can go all the way back to 2013 in November when they were able to stun then, I believe, 4th-ranked South Carolina 23-21. Texas A&M seems to have one of these games that creeps up like an Auburn or a Mississippi State or something like that in the month of November. I'm not going to say that Texas A&M loses, but I don't think they cover. I think it's within 8 points. I'm picking Texas A&M to win, but it's going to be closer than the experts think.
Yeah, this line, it really fishy because this morning I looked it up at 8 o'clock and this morning it was 13.5 and it's 8. Okay. And I actually picked Tennessee with 13.5. I don't care how fishy the line is. Again, we've been doing this all year. It's one of those where your brain says, hey, something's going on here, but what do you do? I mean, I really think A&M's gonna cover that. I mean, Tennessee's awful. They're just not any good. They've gotten blown out by Kentucky with turnovers. I think they're going to get turnover prone again. I have to take Texas A&M here to cover.
I'm going with you too, Al. I wrote down fishy. Okay, so I'm gonna tag this one as fishy, and we're gonna have to get a sound on the soundboard for the fish. If this happens, we'll call it the return of the fish. Because they're fishy, or whatever. Houston, you'll work on it. You'll work it. Reeling in the fishy game there. Next up, number 1, Alabama -28 at LSU. We don't know. This one's COVID optional, so we don't really know. And we're assuming that LSU won't be able to play that game, so we're going to pass on that one. Next one, Arkansas at number 6, Florida. Number 6, Florida. I've got them -17.5. Florida with a 90.3% chance to win. Now, we had a trend of transfer quarterbacks getting revenge. Does that trend continue with this game?
What's the line on that?
17.5, Alan.
I'm going to say yes. This does play into it. Arkansas is not getting enough credit for how improved they've been. Kendall Briles, Barry Odom, 2 outstanding coordinators. Felipe Franks has actually flipped on the switch and actually looks like a competent quarterback. And then on top of that, they've got a semblance of a more complete offense and a decent defense, or a more structured defense. I'm not sure that they're able to win, but I think Florida's going to be in for a fight coming off a big win, big momentum swinging win over Georgia. This isn't your daddy's Arkansas team where they're just going to line up with Darren McFadden and try to run Wildcat the whole time. They're going to try to sling the ball around the yard. And I think they're going to be able to do that against the Florida defense that is still not that great. So I'm going to say Florida does win, but it's going to be a lot closer than the spread. So I'm picking Arkansas on the spread.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Houston here. I think it scares me a little bit though, because Florida, man, they look really good. Scoring all over the Georgia defense, a depleted Georgia defense. We know that, but Arkansas's looked really good this year. They've exceeded expectations by far, and I think coming off a big win, against Georgia, that Florida's going to kind of come back down to earth. I'm taking Arkansas.
I got to go with Arkansas as well because James in chat says Arkansas baby. They have been money for him this year. If they've been money for James, they'll be money for me, I'm sure. So thank you, James, for getting in with your comments on that game. And so that's a lock there for all of us. We're going to pick all to Arkansas. I got that one down. 3 games left to go, fellas. We're in the final stretch. Thank you so much for joining us, Facebook and YouTube. And if you're listening to us after the fact over on our podcast, thank you so much. Number 11, Oregon, -9 at Washington State. I mean, it's hard for me to even pick any of these Pac-12 games. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Houston, I stay up late to do homework and watch wrestling. I don't stay up late to watch Oregon.
Oh, buddy, you're missing out. I applied to Oregon simply because the uniforms. I wanted to go there, man. That was when I've been watching them since the days of Joey Harrington. Love the Ducks. Love Eugene. Love Autzen, even though I don't know if the game's in Autzen or not. Give me the Ducks. They're covering. They're the only chance the Pac-12 gets into the playoff this year. Give me the Ducks.
Yeah, I wanted my brain tells me to go with Oregon on this one. I mean, we picked them as kind of a sleeper to possibly make the playoffs with that defense. But the fact of the matter is, I just don't have enough plus the points here picking against the spread. So I'm going to have to take Washington State plus the points. The only ones I have so far are BC plus the points and Miami plus the points. I can't just pick 2. I got to find one somewhere. So why not the Pac-12?
I mean, they've only played 2 games? No, 1 game this season so far. Both teams seem to be able to sling it, and they both actually have a pretty well-rounded offense in general. But both seem to be giving up a ton of yards on defense as well. You got over 400 yards given up on defense for both, but almost 500 taken on offense for both as well. To me, and it is a home game for Washington in Martin Stadium at 7 p.m. Night game, Martin Stadium. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to go with Washington State here and give me the points. Anytime you don't know a team that well, I feel better picking the points in that case. All right, next up is number 13, Wisconsin, -3.5 at Michigan. Headed over there to play the Wolverines. Wolverines 1-2 after starting off strong the first game. They've lost 2. They've lost 2 in a row now to teams that weren't expected to lose to heading into the season. Wisconsin has only played 1 game, COVID issues, but they beat Illinois 45-7. It seems as if Michigan does not have a defense, giving up over 400 yards per game on defense, while Wisconsin, they only have 1 game, but so it's kind of hard to say, but 45-7 is not too bad to start out your 1 game. This one, is at Michigan Stadium, and you know what? I hate Michigan, so I am going for Wisconsin to cover 3.5.
I'm actually going to do the same, especially if Graham Mertz. I don't think he is going to be back for this game, but if he is, I'm definitely picking Wisconsin. I know that if he's not, they're going to lean behind that run game. Michigan's not going to be able to stop him. And then we hear the rumblings of if Jim Harbaugh survives into the next week.
I agree. I'm going with Wisconsin to cover as well. Forget Michigan.
And the last one up, this is a COVID replacement, as Houston likes to say, a COVID replacement for our LSU-Alabama game in case they don't play that game. If they do play that game, let me just ask, if they do play, does Alabama beat LSU by 28 or more than 28? I say yes.
Yes.
I say no.
You got to give me a reason on this one.
It's LSU. LSU figures out ways. It doesn't matter how bad or good they are. It's always a closer game. Even the year when when Tua took over in 2018, it wasn't good. It wasn't ugly, or it was ugly on the scoreboard. But Alabama was averaging, I believe, like 51 points a game. LSU held them to 29. I feel like LSU is going to find a way to keep it close. I don't think they win, but I think they'd be able to keep it close.
All right, and the last game of the night, South Carolina. That team. is traveling to Ole Miss. This is our COVID replacement game, minus 11.5 right now on the spread. 11.5. South Carolina 2-4 with losses to number 7 Texas A&M and away game to LSU, as well as Florida, and I don't have the top 5 games. I don't know the other game they lost, but Ole Miss is 2-4 as well. But like I said, Ole Miss has 541 yards on offense per game, scoring 38 points per game. And South Carolina on average is scoring 24 points per game with 340 yards. But Ole Miss also has a terrible defense. So Houston, I'll get your thoughts.
This is the Todd Ellis special of the week. Are you ready for Carolina football? Just getting you ready and primed, because you know what's going to happen? Ole Miss is going to cover. This is going to look a lot like the 2011 Orange Bowl. Give me Ole Miss to cover.
Yeah, look, hey, if Kevin Harris or Shi Smith are ever going to get loose, it's against this Ole Miss defense. They're absolutely atrocious. But I think South Carolina, it's a mental thing right now. I think they're decimated. They're a dumpster fire. They know it. They're going down with the ship. Ole Miss covers.
Well, I'm not picking South Carolina, so you can just go ahead and chalk that up for me, Ole Miss as well.